Hello and welcome to another Soccer to the Max here as we are going on right now on the Twitch and on the Twitters and the Facebook page. And of course, if you're not going to be watching us live at this crazy hour of 1 in the morning Eastern time, you can also uh, listen to us later on all the podcasts. We are available on all kinds of pretty much every podcast thing you can imagine at this point, whether it's part of W2 Network or just listening to the Soccer to the Max feed, or you can watch us on YouTube through the W2 Network channel. Just subscribe there, and of course, you're gonna get all the goodies that includes Eric's gazillion shows and uh, my gains podcasts and everything else. So there is quite a bit to talk about here as there has just been so much stuff that happened. We were supposed to do this on Sunday. There would have been a little bit less stuff, I guess, to talk about. But I guess it's one of those times where it's nice that we waited till the weekend because now we have too much stuff to talk about and try to fit it all in like an hour or so time frame. So here's what's on the docket for today is the CONCACAF W qualifiers are finished, and we know the final field now, the final 8 teams, and that are going to be representing in Mexico. The U.S. Women's National Team, which already was placed into that by the fact that they, won the World Cup last go around, and also being, a seeded team, played Uzbekistan in a 2-game window with 18 goals between both games, only conceding once. And we'll talk about that as well. Anything to take out from those 2 games. And we'll be talking about the CONCACAF Champions League because that final is set now. You got the UEFA Champions League, which had plenty to go through. Eric Ten Hag is given a verbal agreement to Manchester United to become its new manager. And then we haven't talked about the team in a while either, so I guess we'll get into that. And there's a FIFA streaming service now, so if you wanted to add more streaming services to your lineup, you could also add a FIFA streaming service to that as well. FIFA Plus is now a thing. So, Eric, I mean, I guess, first of all, how are you doing in this early morning? Yeah.
Normally this for me, this is like my peak, especially if you see me on all of my other different podcasts. This is around the time to where I'm either recording something or uploading something to record. So overall doing okay, trying to digest everything that's been going on.
Yeah, there has been plenty to digest, quite honestly. Let me make sure I put this phone on silent because I have a bad habit of something deciding that it wants to ring at some point here. Um, yeah, so might as well start with perhaps since the 2 Champions Leagues were decided or moved on today after everything. UEFA Champions League, you didn't quite get the triumvirate of English teams, even though Chelsea made one heck of a go of it on Tuesday, as they somehow went from being 3-1 down to scoring 3 goals in that game itself, and then allowed one in late off a just wonderful cross by Luka Modric, a wonderful ball in, and it goes 4-4 to extra time. And wouldn't you know it, he really hadn't been doing a whole lot in that game. Karim Benzema, he's the one that puts it away for Real Madrid to continue their incredible, incredible streak of 15 semifinals now they've been to.
I mean, this is crazy. And you highlighted the two key names, Karim Benzema and Luka Modric. Yes, they're world class players, but they are still on a little bit of the older side. We're talking mid 30s. Not only does Benzema have a wonderful performance in the first leg, a hat trick, following up with the tie winner in extra time, and it's just like, where do you see this coming from?
Yeah, sad thing. Pulisic once again gets subbed in and then has two chances kind of later, and he can't hit either one. That kind of seems to be his woes at times with Chelsea. Of he gets put in good positions, and I mean, look, he attacks well. He goes
Mm-hmm.
after it. He's a menace in the box, but when you're counting on him to finish, that's where it's a little bit of a problem at times. Um, and excuse me, there. I think it's interesting that they were able to do this once again without Romelu Lukaku, who at this point, I mean, I wonder how he feels about how he couldn't even get on. I mean, he had some kind of injury that apparently made it to where he wasn't present in the that second leg there, Eric. But I mean, that's crazy for Chelsea to go out and pay all this money for that's your number nine, and then you go
Yeah.
and use this setup instead. You know?
I mean, you would have thought that, like, bringing him back to Chelsea, being the talisman, being, as you said, the number nine, the striker that you need, and you have Thomas Tuchel, who's led Chelsea to incredible heights. It's like, you know what? Nah, we don't have this. I'm going to try something else, and it works entirely. So you wonder now, with what's going on at the top, with the ownership and everything, what's going on the pitch. Could we see an outright crazy summer for Chelsea? I mean, it's potentially setting up that way.
I mean, he did say he wanted to go back to Italy, so
Mhm.
maybe that's in the cards for him at some point there. I don't know. I mean, somebody would have to want to pay the wages and everything. He might get stuck there, but who knows if Tuchel stays around, depending on who decides to wind up being. I mean, not decides, but who winds up being the owners eventually, and what they kind of see themselves as the next step for the team. I mean, it'd be kind of weird to say you're not going to like keep the manager that yes he kind of faulted in the league and all that stuff, but he still had you in contention all the way to the quarterfinals of a championship they already held the previous season.
Mhm.
So and then on the other end, I mean, talk about perhaps the biggest moment from these four games is Villarreal, such a small town there in Spain, with the smallest budget of all those teams, goes out there. Unai Emery doing it again in cup competitions with not only the 1-0 win, but then going back and then able to score another goal to not let it get to extra time, not give Bayern any hope, and just outright win the tie.
I mean, we've seen it happen to us. A Europa League final. Something about this man, how he can just collect a team in these situations. And I mean, if you look at some of the coverage, Villarreal was not given a chance. I looked at that and I was like, okay, Bayern's just gonna roll. But
Right.
when you have them as that much of an underdog, it's like, nope, this is what we're gonna do. This is how we're gonna do it. We're just gonna go ahead and leave it all out there. We win, great. And that's when they get, in this case, not one, but two huge results to advance.
I'm sorry, excuse me. Yeah, I mean it's just crazy that okay, cool. You shock and win um there and get the 1-0. But then like you're totally expecting, okay, Bayern's gonna wake up, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna do their thing that you would expect them to do. Maybe not roll via Real, but
Yeah.
like get a couple goals in and put it away. And to Villarreal's credit, they pulled it off. I mean, they were tremendous throughout, and it's just incredible to me. I think that who knows? I mean, could they do it again? I mean, you would think not with the way that Liverpool has played. No way. I mean, did they perhaps give people a scare in this game against Benfica? I mean, what Benfica I think had like 3 goals disallowed at one
Yeah,
point. Like,
yeah, and you gotta wonder, especially with after like that first leg with the Liverpool having a 3-1 lead, you would think, okay, job done. But
right,
Benfica is just like, no, and again, you just saw just you could say bad luck after more bad luck after more bad luck, and
right.
they're just seeing left wondering, what might have been. And if I'm Jurgen Klopp, I'm thinking, okay, could be a bit of a problem.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing too. Like, to be fair to Bayern, they thought, okay, we did enough to get it to extra time or whatever, and Villarreal at the last, and in the last few minutes that were left, go and deliver that shock at Allianz Arena. I mean, uh, you have to wonder the pressure that Julian Nagelsmann is feeling right now. I'm sure the German media are going to be all over him because this is not. It's not like Bayern hasn't been doing this in the league as well. They do this a lot where
Mm-hmm.
they come against these teams they're supposed to beat, and they go and play down to their level, and they lose or they draw. And it's incredible to see such a big team that go from, oh, this is a team that wins 9 championships in a row, and they're so dominant and they run rampant, and then this year, ever since the coaching change, it almost seems kind of parallel a little bit to like what we saw with Jesse Marsh and RB Leipzig. Like, what you hear now is, oh, they're telling Nagelsmann we need to go back to what Flick was doing at Bayern. That's what you need to do. Like, stop doing this 3 at the back system. It's not working. Like, and that's the same thing that was happening with Jesse Marsh, right? Like, they were telling him
Yeah.
you need to go back to what they were doing before you came.
Yeah, and you get that, okay, you're used to doing it that with certain formations and setups, and you have a level of success. But when you change managers like that, not everything is going to be the same. There's going to be bumpy patches, and it's going to be a little bit of time to implement these things. But when you're I wouldn't even say it's so much RB Leipzig. When you're Bayern and you're used to this level of success, I mean, you just won, if I remember correctly, a European treble some years ago. It's
Right.
way up there. So you think, oh, if you have what would be a terrible year bowing out this early, or maybe not winning the league or not winning it as closely, walking it at a canter, but it's like, take time, take a step back. If after a longer period, say multiple seasons where this isn't working, then you try considering something. Don't just be so quick to jump the gun.
Right, but I mean, fans press, they're going to be a little bit more quick
Oh,
to
yeah,
be
they
like, well, you
are.
just had success. Why is it that in your first year, when you're supposed to be such a great manager, it's not happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that is a question that people are going to ponder. And it's not like, again, Bayern wasn't playing Real Madrid, Bayern wasn't playing Man City, Bayern wasn't playing Liverpool. They were playing Villarreal, which to Villarreal's credit, what we've seen them do all season is they play well defensively. They don't score a lot, but they will make you work for it, and that's what they do in the league as well. And Bayern kind of didn't know how to deal with that very well. I mean, so it is what it is on that front. I mean, talking about the Liverpool game for a second, other than the craziness that, I mean, you could definitely say VAR definitely worked in this game. The if it wasn't the linesman that was telling you for sure that it seemed like every goal his flag was up and then waiting for VAR to make the correct decision. It was Firmino coming in and almost getting a hat trick, playing well. Klopp basically played a lot of subs in the first half, and it really turned up for him. And to credit to Benfica, man, like credit to Benfica to make a game of it at Anfield, right?
Oh yeah,
They could have just wilted after that Konate goal,
yeah.
and they didn't.
No, I mean when you're someone and when you're that far down in aggregate, you're away no less. It's like okay, you have a lot of teams that'd be willing to just roll over and play dead. It's like no, even if we don't wind up winning, we're gonna go ahead and give it our best and use this as a springboard for the rest of our league season. And I give that same credit to Benfica for doing just that.
Right, and I mean, I think also just it's uh it's incredible to see what like Liverpool, going and they almost could have lost that game against Man City over the weekend. And they went and were able to get the draw. They got the big FA Cup game against Man City on the weekend as well, and then able to just go out there and do their thing here, secure the win. I mean, you could say maybe it was in a little bit of doubt had the Nunez goal not been disallowed offside there in the 91st minute or whatever. But it really was never going to be in doubt, honestly. They
And
took
I'm
care of business, and now you got a night what you would think is an interesting tie between Villarreal and Liverpool now.
And I mean, the fact is, and I know Harry Broadhurst himself, I've seen him commenting in the chat, incredibly grueling schedule, but they've got their eyes on the prize, knowing that it's basically going to be between them and Man City for a quadruple. One of the trophies, the Carabao Cup, is already out of the way, but Klopp is like, okay, he's not going to take this daunting schedule for granted. But at the same time, he's like, all right, I've got to maximize my rotation, see what I can do within this schedule. So I
Yeah.
know when I really need my best 11, they're going to be fresh and they're going to be able to get the key results. So, in a way, it was a very good thing for not only Jurgen to have that opportunity to see a lot of these subs, but it's like, okay, now I know even more what they can do, how I can mix and match.
Yeah, something you can't really say right now for Man City, who's kind of having to play a lot of the same guys, and they had to play them in this game because of how close the score lines were. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, the parking the bus aspect that Atletico Madrid basically pulled in the first game, and then to go and you're at home and you basically do the same thing again.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane to me that they wow.
I
And then not only that, when it wasn't working, they just go to fisticuffs.
Yeah, and for something like that, they're like, okay, we know City has a lot of firepower. We
right.
can't outscore them. Let's limit the damage. For the most part, going home down just 1-0 on aggregate,
Yeah.
you're in a great position. But at that point, you have to find some way to go forward and get that tying goal and do something. They didn't.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, it's like, all right, well, if we can't score, we're just going to fight.
Yeah. I mean, but we have seen that at times with Man City. We've seen these teams come in like Crystal Palace and a few other. It's still incredible to me how they were up like what 14 points
Mm-hmm.
at one point in the league, and then they're all the way down to what they are now with this basically tit for tat with Liverpool, where neither one can afford to drop any points because you may be giving them the league. after what happened on the weekend. So you look at it and you go, can Man City, even though they have all these terrific players, I mean, you're still missing some guys, but yes, they have an embarrassment of riches. But is that, are you going to be able to trust them to be able to bring them on and say, Jack Grealish, who you still, I feel like you haven't gotten the best from him, and say, okay, all these other games left, we're going to play well. But, this game coming up for Man City and Liverpool is going to be another one of these where who knows? Are they going to be able to, are they going to play the same lineups? Or are we going to, you think they're going to try to do the same thing? Where we play some of the rotated players in the first half and then see how it goes? Or?
I mean, they're going to have to try because at this point, while your schedule isn't as daunting as Liverpool's, you're really going to be kind of burnt out and have your players burnt out. Even if you are giving them, 50, 60, 70 minutes, it's like you're not going to be able to have this team playing in every essence every 3 days or every single week.
Right. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting thing now with these, and then how much is Champions League a distraction, especially for Man City, who now has to play Real Madrid. They have what you would say on paper is the tougher tie. Even though we have seen sometimes Real Madrid will do what they do, right? Where that first game, it's either the opposite, right? Where they come out and they're kind of a bit flat, and then they go and pull a miracle in the Bernabeu, or what we saw the opposite of against Chelsea, where they went out and went at it and took advantage of Chelsea, and then Chelsea kind of fought back. So that's going to be an interesting fight for Pep as far as how much can I dedicate to the league knowing I have this big game coming up on the weekend, and then after that you also have the big game against Real Madrid
Mm-hmm.
later on down the line in a two-legged affair. So that's
Yeah.
going to be,
Pep's
you know,
got to decide right now what trophies am I really going to go for and win? Because it's all
right.
about hardware. Again, as I mentioned earlier, one, the least of the four, if you really want to look at it, let that slip away against the Liverpool. But now you still got a treble on the line. It's like, all right, if I can't win it all, what's my most important ones to help keep everybody happy?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see Pep just giving up a chance to win that. I do think that, I mean, after what we saw
Mm-hmm.
on the weekend, we know what these two teams can do. For that task and to replicate that again is a ridiculous task, honestly. And then I think it just takes who's going to come up with that little bit of magic, who's going to come up with some of the saves. Whether it's going to be Allison, who I would count on way more than Ederson, who sometimes,
Oh, yeah.
but we saw him almost give up one in that game. Is Salah going to finally have his kind of come back to form, where we've kind of seen him kind of dip a little bit? I feel like since he had the knockout in the World Cup, I feel like we haven't seen him be at his best yet. Where okay, you're not qualifying. Egypt's not making it there. Maybe he's gone a little bit. He does have the contract situation coming up
Mm-hmm.
as well. So but for Man City, they know it's Champions League or bust right now. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the thing. Is he willing to sacrifice a cup that they've won before already to get the one that's elusive, at least with Man City, for Pep? So that's a big thing. And can the two Spanish sides keep up this incredible run as well? Because Real Madrid, they don't have to worry about the league. Honestly, they just got to win a couple more, and they got that sewn up. Barcelona has the game in hand, but they got to make up 9 points. That's a lot, even though they're in an incredible form. And Villarreal is they're where they're at. Villarreal's not really going to go anywhere. They're not going to go down. They're not going to go up. So this is kind of Villarreal's shot at this point. If you want to make it back in the Champions League, yeah, might have to get further than here to get there. So that's going to be just those are like the storylines going in are definitely made for perhaps something you don't expect. And then just Real Madrid, every time you think this is going to be the moment, right, where, oh, they're going to get unseated, they come up with something. So you would expect Pep's going to have that eye and that mind over there. So let's switch over to the CONCACAF side of things. We are having, once again, we knew this coming in, right? Because we had the two MLS sides playing each other, and then you had the two Mexican League sides playing each other. And what a fight it was between Pumas and Cruz Azul. As well, Pumas is making, they haven't really been proficient when it's been the Champions League. They've been the one of the Cuadrado that really hasn't been a factor much. They were big in the 80s with the Champions Cup, but not so much with the Champions League. Cruz Azul, who after so many years of not winning anything, finally won the championship again. And they're missing out here, and they get to play one of the powerhouses of MLS in Seattle, with the actual defending champions of the league. They have been, we know we're going to talk about New England free falling. NYCFC has just as bad.
Yeah, and I don't know. You can say with New England, we've seen this before, and we talked about this all going through last season. Winning that supporter shield, you very rarely come away with MLS Cup, and you have that sort of a hangover between talent leaving, everybody else like stepping up and tracking you down. You get that sort of like a hangover, that free fall. And I think with NYCSC, even though they are a relatively young team in terms of being in MLS, they still haven't had that level of success that they were living and really building up to when Manchester City and their ownership essentially got this team and got this together. Now that they have, you still don't know about, okay, what do you do next? And it's going to be interesting to see if NYCFC or even New England, if either of those teams can get it together and say, hey, don't let last year just be like that one off. Continue that sustained success. And meanwhile, you have teams like Seattle. I mean, something about the Cascadia region, everything is just a right as rain. It's like, okay, we've had our blip, but we're still the Sounders. We've still got our core. We know who we are, how we're going to play, and we're going to force you to stop it.
Yeah, I mean, and they it feels like they have even more weapons right now with, Jordan Morris finally being healthy. Lodero is there, Rui Diaz. I mean, you could just like keep adding on guys that are just so great. This could be that time. This could be the one for MLS. You have perhaps one of your best teams, not just historically, but currently right now in MLS going against a Pumas team that, has been playing well, you would say. But, I mean, I don't know that I would tip them as the favorites like you would a lot of the rest of when the Mexican league sides have come into play,
No, and if you're looking at with them in Liga MX, that really shows.
Yeah.
Yes, historically good, as you mentioned, but having not just an off year, but really a middling few years, having this great run. If I'm Seattle, I don't even just think about the weight of MLS. It's just, okay, this is a good team, but we can be that better team. Let's just win it for us, get the monkey off of MLS's back, and say, all right, don't let the pressure build. We know, especially over two legs, we can do it.
No, yeah, exactly. And that's the thing is, you look at it right now, neither team is honestly doing terrific in the league. But honestly, MLS is the entire league is not a sprint; it's a marathon.
Right.
So
and
you
we're
can do
early
bad.
doors.
Right?
It's only
Yeah.
April.
You can do bad right now, and then later you get hot and go on a streak and you make it to the playoffs, and that's all that matters.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, right now you got the team sitting, what is it, 11th in the Western Conference, and then you got the team sitting 10th in Liga MX, and 12 teams out of the 18 make it to the Liguilla, the playoffs. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting, but I would definitely tip my cap with all the firepower that Seattle has. This really could be that year that you're thinking, hey, MLS has a shot. Um, Not just because, again, because you would trust Seattle over another one of these teams, but and when I look at the teams matching up, it's just it looks like it's Seattle's to lose,
Mm-hmm.
honestly. And I mean, outside of the grudge match at the end, Seattle really hasn't been putting up points in these games as well. They beat Lyon 3-0. I mean,
Yeah.
so it's it's something that I think I'm not saying it's. I definitely would expect it's going to be a match that that both teams are going to bring it. It's going to be
Mm-hmm.
an interesting one, but yeah, I think we can safely say when we're looking at April 26th and May 3rd, man.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if they're ever gonna. Did they fix this for the revamp? Is it
Yes.
really gonna be a final and not a two-legged?
Yeah, for the
Okay.
revamp, it will be a one-off final. The one thing that they got right, one thing.
One thing out of that entire revamp thing was making it a true final. Yeah, with the way it should be, but still, you get the home and home, home and away, wherever you want to look at it. April 26th, May 3rd, circle that down because very well could be the time MLS is finally crowned champions of CONCACAF after all of these incredible. I mean, Champions League anyway, CONCACAF. So in its the current format, I should say. So switching gears here to looking at the international side of things on the women's side. United States women's national team, as I mentioned, 9-0 over Uzbekistan, 9-1 previously to that. I mean, you look at those scorelines and you go, what is there to take away
Yeah,
from that, Um, but is there something to take away
yeah.
there?
I mean, you're getting a more focus on your next crop for this World Cup cycle and potentially the next World Cup cycle. And your debut of your latest set of big names like Trinity Rodman, she scored a goal. So it's like,
Yeah, her first goal. Okay.
exactly. Her first goal for the US. So it's like, great. You're getting these younger players experience and you're setting up for the next generation. I think really that's the big thing because if you look at it, it's like, okay, you're not surprised that it was such a wide margin, but
Right.
you look at who performs, who actually scores the goals, and you think, okay, these are going to be the names to keep my eyes on.
No, definitely. Between both games, you got, I think, what you wanted to see out of the who you think could be your star, who you know are going to be your stars, and
Mm-hmm.
then also who you think could be the ones to kind of be right up there with them. Like a lot of thought coming in about Sophia Smith. She comes in and scores three, gets the hat trick in the first game. Mallory Pugh gets a goal, who's been um, performing well for Red Stars and for country as well. Katarina Marcaro has been absolutely on fire. She's been tremendous. And, Ashley Sanchez should be giving her some props as well because in both games, in both games, she played extremely well. and in both games, she scored. So in basically the same minute as well at the end. At the end, she scores. Katerina Markura even did it off a free kick, which was pretty great as well. Rose Lavelle, we saw her get in there and have some nifty moves as well, set up a lot of these goals. So you kind of see what Vlatko is trying to do. He really is pushing for that younger generation. Get them in there, get them playing together, which is very important. And considering these possibly might be the last friendlies that the U.S. women's national team plays before you get to those CONCACAF W qualifiers, it's very important that you saw this, and then two very similar games as well. Like very similar number of shots on target. Almost half the shots were on target for the U.S. I mean, pitching a shutout in the second game, very good to see. And it's very good progress, but honestly, again, it's also Uzbekistan, right? So got to cool the jets a bit on getting super excited because you still need to face actual competition in games that matter. That being said, you could say the same thing for the CONCACAF W qualified teams as well, Eric. If you look at these actual, like the 6 teams besides Canada and US that were already there automatically, and Jamaica, credit to them, did make the World Cup representing CONCACAF in 2019. You're talking about games that even in the one that was supposed to be against the group leaders, they were big results.
Oh yeah.
I mean, so you were talking about a Jamaica winning 5-1 over Dominican Republic, Mexico beating Puerto Rico 6-0, Costa Rica whooping Guatemala 5-0. I mean, so there wasn't this, like, I don't know that aside from Panama and El Salvador, and Trinidad having to deal with Guyana actually fighting with them to make, like, I never felt El Salvador was really never in that game. They just defended well. Whereas Guyana, Trinidad, and Tobago, that was a fight. Like, that was the only one that was actually a fight. Trinidad dropped points, the only one of the qualified teams to drop points out of the 4 games that each of them played. But for the most part, it was a lot of domination from the teams that made it. So this sets up a CONCACAF W where we're going to really see who are the best teams.
Oh, absolutely. And it's showing kind of where the levels of talent that the rest of CONCACAF are at. You have your 2 titans in the US and Canada. Now you have these level of teams that are forming your second tier, but pushing themselves on their way up. And then you have everybody else. Now it's really going to be interesting how the US and Canada do, because now that you've got the best of the best from the rest, you would expect them to really beat each other up. You're not going to get your big 5-0, 6-0, 6-1 results. A lot of maybe like 2-0s or 1-1s and things of that nature. So how can not only these teams go ahead and make the push for those semifinal spots, the presumed 2 that you would expect with US and Canada taking the other 2, but how will both sides of the border go ahead and really test them and show, hey, you all still have a long way to go to catch us?
Yeah, definitely. So here is just to actually give you what this looks like when the teams will be playing each other from July 4th to July 18th in Mexico, by the way. So in Monterrey. So this is not like U.S. advantage. This is, hey, the U.S. actually is going to have to go and play in Mexico, in Guadalupe and San Nicolas de los Garza, in that area. It's not, going and playing in various venues of the United States. This is a different one. So good on also whoever set this up to actually make this a challenge also with the terrain, and very interesting as well for Canada, how that's going to be for them. You know, the draw actually happens next week, so we'll. It happens on the 19th, which is Tuesday. So definitely when we do a show again on Wednesday, because Sunday's Easter Sunday, not
Mm-hmm.
doing a show that day. But when we do the show next Wednesday, we'll be able to talk about the draw and who actually is going to be in each group. We know the U.S. and Canada are seeded, so they're number one, but they have to still beat number one or number two in each group to advance. And then those four teams that advance, you actually make it to the World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever actually wins the entire tournament, you also are qualified to the Olympics
Right.
automatically. So there's that, and then the two teams that wind up as third, you advance to the Confederation playoffs. Playoffs again. So they will face. They'll have a draw, obviously, for that, and then we'll see how that goes. Um, I mean, that's cool that this one tournament has such a. It basically makes everything else happen. Uh, yeah, like really love to see that. And obviously, this World Cup is bigger than the one before. It's 32 teams now, so equal to the men, even though the men are about to go on to the 48 team one the next go around. But like, I don't know if you saw any of the highlights of the games or anything like that, but I really feel like this could be very interesting. Mexico being the home team here, and then having I thought Haiti looked really good. I mean, obviously Jamaica is going to carry a lot of that team forward from the 2019 team that made the World Cup, and I thought also uh, Panama looked pretty decent as well. So, and then of course, obviously Mexico. So, man, I think we could definitely see perhaps U.S. and Canada really have to
Oh yeah.
get they do get some challenges here, and that's what I hope for this young U.S. women's national team. We'll have to see if Vladko really sticks with it. Right, this is going to be
Mm-hmm.
interesting because there's a lot of time between. I mean, you say it's a lot of time, right? But it kind of comes faster than you think. But still, it's April to July. There's still some months in between. There's a lot of time for some of these veterans to show out in NWSL. And what does Vladko do at that point? Does he stick with the squad that he's brought? Which that's what he's been trying to do this entire time. He says, "I've been trying to get this young group of players to all play together and start and everything
Mm-hmm.
else." Or does he go back to some of the veterans because this is a big champion, a big tournament that determines everything.
I would hope he doesn't do an exact about face. I mean, would you love to see some veteran presence if possible? Yes. But to me, if I am looking at that, I would look at them for some leadership, mentorship for these young players instead of major minutes. And I think with Vlaco, I trust him to get that nice blend because, yes,
Yeah.
there is a lot on the line, a double qualification. But if you get a lot of these younger players this experience, all the better for you if and when you make the tournament. So that way, okay, we can make another run.
Yeah, certainly. I do hope that we get to see some kind of adversity for the U.S. Women's National Team. You see some of these teams actually give them a go, and then again, like having this not be in the United States, I think is a big thing and a big win. I think for everyone, and getting to see how this goes for being in unfamiliar territory. Because a lot of these
Mm-hmm.
friendlies they're all played in the U.S. All
Mm-hmm.
this stuff. So it's it's good to see this
Oh yeah.
finally. And again, it won't be too long. we'll get to see them and see how they perform uh, down there, down in Mexico, and if they can come up with what you would expect, which is to be part of that Final Four that
Mm-hmm.
goes to the World Cup. So I would say watch out for Haiti, though. I think they could definitely be part of that four as well, depending on who they get drawn against there. But talking about on the other side of the U.S. men, once again, Giovanni Reyna is hurt. Another reoccurrence of that hamstring injury. This time it's an actual tear, which was going to put him out for the rest of the Bundesliga season. And you have to wonder if this is going to affect him when it comes to those friendlies as well, that are going to be vital for the U.S. because those are
Mm-hmm.
the only things you're going to have in the lead up to the World Cup. There's no send off series, as I mentioned before. It's um, three friendlies you get in June, and then the two CONCACAF Nations League games, and then in September you get two more games, and that's it.
Yep.
So um, he obviously went off crying in that game. I mean, playing 2 minutes and then getting hurt. That's awful. I mean, obviously this isn't great for the national team. Obviously not great for his young career. I mean, how do you think this is gonna? Do you think this affects him at all?
I
Do you
I
think? Yeah,
I really think so because when you have an athlete, and especially a young athlete, pushing, fine tuning, honing their craft, playing at such a high level, then you get hurt. It's one thing which you can bounce back, and if you can have another sustained injury free run, you can put it behind you. But then when you get hurt again and again and again, and now you're starting to see it getting progressively worse. Now, this is a hamstring tear. Yes, you're talking about the rest of the season. Maybe, depending on the severity of the tear and how everything goes, you're ruling him out. Could you get him in September? I mean, June, July, is just about out of the question. Then, if you're not playing in that long of a time, then you're struggling to keep getting back, getting back. You have the attachment of being injury prone on you, and all these things. It can really be demoralizing. And I hope, for not his sake and everybody's, that Gio can look at this and not let it get to him too much, so that way he can push through and bounce back. But definitely something to keep an eye on because this is really going to get in his head.
yeah. You do worry about kind of having some of the similar steps that we saw with Pulisic, where he gets
Mm-hmm.
hurt, and then it's not only just an injury that he misses a game and whatever. Now it's these prolonged injuries that where he's missing a lot. I remember we saw him in that first game against El Salvador. Then we didn't see him again until this last window with the
Mm-hmm.
USWNT. So, and then for Dortmund, it's been like that as well. And like trying to earn your place back at the club level, that's also a thing as well. I think what helps him really is that right now, I think he's good friends with Erling Haaland, and then you
Mm-hmm.
see how he and Haaland combine and but it's kind of you got to look at it too. The guy that replaces him has now scored both times after Reina exits, so that's not too great on that. And I think that's got to bother him. And then just like knowing that you're not really getting to make that impact that you want on your club and be able to set yourself up for further things. And like you said, man, does that put him in jeopardy for those June friendlies and those June games?
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, and then it's also like an internal thing of does he have to learn to trust himself and know that okay, I had an injury, I'm gonna go on, right, and I'm gonna do the best I can, and that's kind of a that. I mean, the good thing is he's young, right?
Oh yeah.
So
He's
you
young,
hope
he can
that,
heal quicker, come back stronger, and then knowing that that can happen, definitely let the mentals come in and believing that you can, everything else can fall into place.
yeah, the only good thing I guess you could say about that is with his injury has come the availability of other players to be able to step in and kind of fill those roles. Um, again, you already know McKinney's gonna still be out, so but it does give that availability for Aronson to be able to come in, or Weah to play on that wing, or even Acosta or whoever else you want to put in the middle if you want to put him there. So you do have options if you're Greg Berhalter, but
Mm-hmm.
obviously you those are two big key pieces out of your midfield and forward line, or that you're missing, and you hope that you can get that all together at some point before the World Cup to get them to get some chemistry.
Right.
So let's probably should have talked about the slide of New England while we were talking about the CONCACAF Champions League, since we're already in it. But it is crazy to think about the team that, even though yes, we did see them kind of bomb out of the playoffs,
Mm-hmm.
um, it seems to kind of have been a direction for them, right?
Right.
And okay, they bombed out of the playoffs, and then we come next season, instead of being hungry, a little bit of like championship withdrawal there.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, you have all of this and you have sustained success over the course of a regular season. When you're in one or two match situations like MLS Cup playoffs, you fail.
Right.
Then you're going into CONCACAF Champions League very early on, like shocking, and like that two-legged aggregate. Again, you fail, and you wonder, is New England really built for more regular season success, and that's it? Or are they missing a couple of pieces? And then if they are built for regular season success, then how do these start to really affect you as far as towards the beginning of your regular season? Because it's not really going that hot right now. What's going on with confidence? What's going on between teammates? It's something just went out. And I'm not sure if it's something that can easily come back.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like it is a little bit of that. I mean, they did win the Supporter Shield last year. It was going to be incredible. I mean, after you win, you get like the points, the historic points title. I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
crazy to think that you know you're going to do that again. That's You usually never see that happen where they do it twice. It's like usually
Mm-hmm.
a big win, and then they kind of, okay, we didn't do it the second time. But I mean, you just lost to Inter Miami, who had not won at all. I mean, that is really low. It is only a 5-game losing streak when you count no CONCACAF Champions League, where they did get eventually beat by the finalists Pumas, but
Mm-hmm.
it's still just weird.
Ye-
It's
yeah. And it's not just an ordinary 5 match losing streak.
right.
It's a 5 match losing streak in these various competitions. Normally, you would be able to hang your hat on at least something, and maybe with the way the schedule lined up and everything that happened early on in CCL, that was kind of to their detriment. Maybe had they played those games, it would have been, could have been worse and could have been bounced out even earlier, but it could have been better getting more under your feet, because it's just, I don't know. I've got too many question marks.
Yeah, I mean, they have been giving up goals late as well, which that kind of shows a little bit of sometimes like mental focus
Mm-hmm.
of you're giving game winners away in the 80th minute or later. I mean, that's incredible too. Um, and just also like not having, all your star players fit, that can be a hindrance as well. I mean, Matt Turner's not been playing, so that's which, if we remember, Matt Turner apparently got frostbite in that game, the U.S. game where they played in the 5 degrees. So I mean, that's all kind of together in this and saying, yeah, the Revs are not the same,
Mm-mm.
right? So, and it's definitely showing. You're not. The attack's not the same. They're lacking defensive focus. Again, they don't have their leader at the back and their goalkeeper Matt Turner. So, I mean, interesting that they're playing a Charlotte team that got a Olympico the other day and won and beat Atlanta. So, are they going to go down again and lose? Are they finally going to use that as a way to kind of go on a run? What do you think? You think that
I,
they get back to winning ways on Saturday?
I don't think so. I think even with Charlotte and looking at their debut season, the big game where they had the attendance record, nearly had that. They showed that fight. You mentioned the Olympico against Atlanta. It's a team that's like, they know what they're there for. They're not going to be like Cincinnati or Inter Miami and, oh, we're going to wait and get, these big names or figure everything out and not worry about results. They're going to come in
I really do
ready,
appreciate
hungry
about
to
them.
win. Yeah.
When I think we talked about it, right? We like you look at that squad and you go, who the heck's gonna do what on this team, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's no big star player. There's no
No.
person you're like selling the tickets on. It's just Charlotte FC, and then they're fighting every single game, and
Mm-hmm.
that's incredible.
Yeah. And I think with something like this, just like how losing breeds losing and it's contagious. Now that Charlotte has got not just this competitive, but that competition that turns into wins, they're going to want to keep that rolling. And this is ripe for them to get 3 points against the New England team.
Yeah, certainly. So, sticking on the club side, but on the Premier League side of things, oh boy, what do you say after Manchester United lose to Everton?
Good.
The the
Goodbye, top four.
I mean,
I mean, hey,
yeah.
Eric Ten Hag, if you're gonna sign that deal, be prepared to cut your teeth again in the Europa League. It just won't be like with Ajax. This season, and I get that there was a lot of noise even going into this year. It just seems like Ralph Ragnick is done. Key players on this team is done. There's been so many questions. Harry Maguire's captaincy. How much longer is Ronaldo going to be there? Younger players, all
I
this and
mean,
that. And
them
just,
fighting with each other inside the lock. I mean, not fighting physically, but
yeah.
like just some inter issues in the locker room. And then obviously, I think it all comes down to that thing of the whole interim coach thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could have just kept Michael Carrick on and just kept giving
Yeah.
him more games and more games and said, look, we're looking for somebody. We're looking for somebody. He's going to be on to the end of the season, and then we'll reevaluate all that. I mean, I don't understand this idea of the interim manager, and I think from the moment that you brought him in, the players already know. Well, we don't need to listen to him because he's not going to be here,
Yeah.
and then they realize they don't really like him, so it's like, well, let's. I'm not saying like not try or whatever,
Right.
but it's just there's not a lot of motivation
No.
for them to go out and really try to get behind anything because they don't necessarily want him to be the coach next season.
No, they don't. And
And what does it matter to them? Because some of them won't be there, number one. And then number two, okay, this whatever new coach comes in, who knows what that's going to be like next year, you know?
exactly, because I get why the board and everyone up top didn't want to make the same mistake they ended up making with Solskjaer. Which, all right, you've done enough, keep you on, get you a deal. But I think, especially with someone like Michael Carrick, as you said, we're going to give you this window. Don't worry about what's going on behind the scenes. You're going to be our guy for now. Do what you can. And if they say, hey, maybe you could be the guy, or even if you're not, just have that steady voice to right the ship right then and there. If at the end of the season it doesn't work, you've got your plans and everything in place, and you're not scrambling like the way you did. Because you
Yeah.
not only brought in a guy who, interim manager, oh, then he's going to be transitioning a role, and oh, he's going to be finding the next manager in this and that. You're not only going to wonder what his focus is, but as you mentioned, the team's focus. It's like, how long is he going to be here and what's he really going to do? And then you have it with Rangnick. It's like, okay, what am I really going to do and why am I really going to be here? How am I going to focus? Do I go full throttle implementing this on the pitch? Or do I set up and tell the next person, hey, this is what you've got to work with? This was just handled horribly.
I mean, and how much does that director role even matter? Because we know the Glazers don't even listen to most of their people that they hire
No.
to supposedly, uh, give them ideas and what to do and everything. So, that's the issue is that and to go back to your point, the issue wasn't hiring Solskjaer in the first place. The issue was letting Solskjaer stay on for so long.
Yes, exactly.
So like it wouldn't have been bad to let
Mm-hmm.
Carrick be there. It's
Yeah.
just at the end of the season, unless they did some miracle thing where they went on this tear where they went all the way to third or something and they were fighting Chelsea for third, something like
Mm-hmm.
that. Which they were doing fine, right? They were doing fine, but there was nothing that you saw under Carrick that wasn't really nothing that you didn't see under Solskjaer yet. I mean, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if he would have really changed a whole lot, but still, it's the whole. Well, Carrick is another guy that used to be at the club. People have
Yep.
respect for him.
Yep.
Like, you're bringing in this total unknown guy that doesn't have anything to do with the Premier League. He has no experience there. I mean, yes, you're going to say the same thing for Ten Hag, but he has experience at Ajax, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
um, we've seen what he's been able to do. There's a step there. There's a logical progression, a little bit, right?
Oh yeah.
It's just I don't know. And then you also what's going on with Marcus Rashford, what's going on with excuse me, um, with Paul Pogba. There's a lot there, and I think it's just a combination of my lord, this is a teardown, and we really need to figure out who the hell's going to be on this team.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to talk about really what Ten Hag could bring yet because still it's not done and dusted. I don't want to get excited and then we hear something else on Monday. He
Right.
does apparently have an offer from RB Leipzig as well to go over there. So, and I'm sure they would be prepared to offer him a lot more than the Glazers are going to offer him as far as like how much decisions he's going to have,
Mm-hmm.
in the signings and everything, which he really needs to have if you want to change this
Of
team
course.
and not be middling and not be because now you've hopefully the Glazers see what it's going to be like to not get that Champions League money
Yeah.
next
And
year.
and the fact is, you're not getting Champions League money. You've got the whole drama about what you're finally going to do to Old Trafford and the renovations.
Right.
And you're thinking about it like this. You've already had people calling for your heads. This is an unprecedented run for Manchester United. 5 seasons. 5 seasons, no silverware.
Yeah.
This is just in any way not acceptable. And knowing we talked about, the German press and fans and everything there, we've seen what United fans can do when they're pissed off. They
Right.
won't hesitate to do it again if it gets worse.
No,
And it's shaping up to get worse.
Yeah, but I think now that you know that Ten Hag's been appointed, saying that everything's going to go well, that's the thing. It's almost like, well, whatever happens the rest of the season, I guess let's hope that you get fifth or sixth so you can get into the Europa League and not Europa League Conference and go from there. But it's just like, okay, you got Norwich. I mean, that's the thing. Because Norwich is fighting for their life, you can't even trust Rangnick to be able to go out there and confidently go and beat a Norwich team.
No, especially not after that god awful performance against Everton.
No, and then you got Liverpool after that. You got Arsenal after that, which Arsenal's gone on a little bit of a dip as well. But if there is anyone that you can go and get a win against, it's Manchester United right now. You got Brentford, who have been tremendous now after Christian Eriksen has come back. I mean, look. I mean, we were worried about Brentford getting relegated. They've been playing really well, and
I
then,
knew beginning of the season, like I said, my wallet is half thanking me right now. Just needs Leicester to step up, but that's not important.
Exactly. I mean, but you look at from now to the end of the season, it's like Brighton's been tricky. I mean, they just won a game that you would have thought they shouldn't have won. Crystal Palace has been tricky this year. I mean, there's no game where you can go, oh yeah, there's no game you can go, oh yeah, that's a surefire win Manchester United at this point. Right. But like, all of these games are possible losses or drop points or draws.
Yeah,
or
you're easily you're talking instead of okay, at least a point, maybe 3. With recent form, you're thinking and maybe a point in some of these. And if you don't pick up with these wins, now you're in a battle fighting not for 5th, but for 7th. And then what? Then imagine everything that's going to happen if you're worrying about not being in Europe whatsoever.
I mean, that's a possibility. It's sad to say, but it's a possibility of could they realistically not be in any European places at all the way things are going, because it's not like, it's not like West Ham are just gonna. I mean, West Ham can keep faltering because they've had to play the same players constantly and don't have a way to rotate. But I mean, you still got Wolves in the mix.
Yep.
Who they are kind of dangerous, and then Tottenham and Arsenal. I mean, Spurs are flying right now, and the way Chelsea have kind of been in the league a little bit. Yeah, they just whooped Southampton 6-0 or whatever, but are they going to deflate from losing the Champions League and get pulled into the scrum as well? Or they're going to pull Tottenham and Arsenal and everybody into that. I mean, because they're only 3 points. Arsenal have a game in hand, and I mean Chelsea have a game in hand as well. But like that whole thing is possibly there for this fight between Tottenham, Arsenal, West Ham, Wolves to just make Man United be stuck in 8th.
Mm-hmm.
because they are just that inept and that like there's no flow, there's no chemistry, there's no nothing. It's just the same thing that it's been since Solskjaer. These players just get on the pitch,
Yep.
they run around, somebody maybe does something, and if the defense can maybe hold on, that's it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just like,
You're putting
oh,
out 11 individuals. You're not putting out a team.
yeah. I mean, and that's what you're hoping with Ten Hag is that you will eventually get a team. Will it have to be like a few seasons to get that? Probably, because again, I don't think you can get away. You can't get rid of all these players
No, and
in
even
one.
then, looking
Yeah,
how, if it is Ten Hag, look at how he plays in his philosophy. You still got the pressing, which you would consider a 4-3-3, maybe a 4-2-3-1. How are you going to implement that with the way that he sets up different numerical advantages in parts of the pitch? That's a lot to implement just in one season. So we'll see. If it's him, we'll see.
yeah, definitely. So let's let's look at one last thing, which is interesting, just from the fact that you can actually go use this right now. Apparently, FIFA Plus. I think it's like I don't know that there's apps on your streaming TVs at the moment, but I am on the website, and they do have old World Cup games. They do have like little documentaries, um, things like that. At the moment, what they are supposedly promising is that you'll be able to eventually watch like club team games for leagues in countries where these leagues don't have TV deals.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say the Premier League or something, but
Oh no.
let's talk about like let's say maybe the Dutch league doesn't have a TV deal in some country. You could watch it through there, or they're promising eventually 40,000 live matches per year from 100 member associations across all six confederations, including 29,000 men's games and 11,000 women's matches. From Europe's top flight leagues to previously unserved competitions. Um, so, like right now, you can actually stream matches from the Mongolian Second League, Nepal's Women's Football League, and then see, this is what I was talking about, Eric. Like you're talking about, like Nepal's Women's Football League, the 3F Superliga. I mean,
Okay.
yeah,
I'm
fuck
not
'em.
gonna I'm not gonna sit and knock it, because knowing me and how I operate, if I were to get my hands on this, I may just check that out some nights. Nothing to do, nothing going on, I would tune in. So I'm not gonna say anything about that whatsoever. And we were talking about this off air.
Yeah,
Even for some of like your mid-tier or your bigger leagues that are underserved, like even here, I don't get much access to your Brazilian Serie A or Campeonato Sao Paulo, things like that I would want to watch. I used to be able to watch, and I would. If I were to get access to that, great. You have, like they say, every World Cup game ever. I would love to see the 1950 Brazil v Uruguay, or go back and watch the 66 final England vs West Germany, or even that North Korean team that made a run. So there's benefits,
yeah,
but there's still the parts in my mind knowing FIFA. It's like, okay, are they really going to keep this up, or doing everything, and could indeed grow the game tremendously from a digital or media access standpoint with these? Or are they going to go ahead, keep bowing down, and find some way to chase more money.
I mean, right now it's free and ad supported or whatever. And like I said, I'm not going to turn my TV on right now behind me to see if there's an app on my Roku. I'm sure eventually they will do that.
Mm-hmm.
But right now it's, you can go on your PC and go to FIFA.com and it's right there immediately when you go on FIFA.com. They want you to go on FIFA Plus or whatever. But eventually they're going to charge something for this. Like,
Yeah.
especially around when the World Cup happens.
Oh yeah.
It'll be $5 to watch, and you can watch like the highlights. I mean, the thing is, are they going to be putting them on YouTube, or are they going to try to put everybody to go to FIFA Plus? I mean,
That's
um,
that's
you
exactly
know,
what I mean. Chasing the money. If they
yeah,
do that, I can guarantee it's going to be FIFA Plus exclusive.
yeah.
Guarantee.
I mean, are they going to have? I mean, that's the thing is they're launching this now so they can have things built around it for the World Cup. Obviously, I mean, I would hope that you're going to have shows outside of what you're going to see on Fox or Telemundo, whatever that FIFA themselves can bring about the teams and things like that. That perhaps right now, while it's not paid for, you can eventually push that stuff to YouTube and get people to go watch things. But I think it's cool that even though, look, I'm not gonna watch these leagues. I don't have enough time just to even watch the EPL and La Liga and whatever. But it is cool that you can watch them, and at some point they want to add more leagues and all that stuff. Like you said, make the game
Yeah.
more global.
Yeah.
Make it to where
Give me access to the Brazilian and Japanese top flights, and I'm sold.
well,
Seriously.
Paramount Plus somebody has the Brazilian and Argentinian as well. So,
Okay, but
um,
still, I don't see Ururawa Red Diamonds. Come on, I don't see my guys over there from Saitama Prefecture.
right, you're right.
Still,
Let's see if you do get those Japanese leagues added, or do you get the Uruguay League or the Colombian League, or those are leagues that some people might consider to be in the top 20 of the world or whatever. I mean, do you get that? Do you get those kind of things where, oh wow, this could be something, and eventually do you spin that off where they could make money and get another company that is bigger
right?
in soccer rights to buy that because they were able to get people to watch it there. I think it's an interesting thing. I think it's an interesting concept. It's obviously like any other streaming service. How much are they going to use it? Are they going to be able to build things on top of it? Like, I think these documentaries, I love documentaries. So
Mm-hmm.
anytime you can make a documentary and put it on, especially about soccer, I'm watching it. So I will definitely be watching one of my favorite players ever, Ronaldinho, in this documentary. Uh, probably tomorrow before I go to work. So my point is, I think it's a good start. Let's see what happens by the time we get to the
Mm-hmm.
World Cup,
Oh yeah.
where this thing is at. But it's cool that FIFA has its own streaming service, I guess. So, with that being said, that's it for the show today. Um, Happy Easter, happy Good Friday to everybody, to Eric. Hope you all get to enjoy the holiday. Happy birthday to my daughter. She's 11 today.
Oh, happy
And
birthday!
so that's a cool thing. I get to sleep for about 5 hours, then I have to rush to try to do her birthday before she goes to school. And then I gotta appreciate it because soon then she'll be a teenager and be like, "Oh, I don't want to do birthdays with you, Dad."
Oh, trust me.
So
My nephew just turned 14, so yeah.
yeah, um, it's this is a holiday that be careful out there. The COVID cases are going back up again. So yeah, we will be back on Wednesday. Thursday morning or afternoon for you guys that are listening on demand or watching on YouTube. Like I said, we'll talk about the CONCACAF W draw, and we'll We'll discuss, the FA Cup game between Man City and Liverpool and whatever else is going on with Manchester United. See if Eric Ten Hag does a little bit more than verbally commit by the next time we're around. And we'll see what else has been going on in the world of soccer till then. So, Eric, it's time we bid adieu. Peace, everyone.
Peace.